And our big story at this hour, with its 10th May issue, the Time magazine landed in a controversy by calling Narendra Modi India's divider-in-chief. The Time cover story came in the middle of the Lok Sabha elections and riled up Modi supporters across the country. Now, just days after the election results, which gave Modi a thumping majority, Time has come up with yet another article. But this time it says that Modi has united the country like no other Prime Minister. The opinion piece, titled "Modi has united India like no Prime Minister in decades," has been written by Manoj Ladwa, who incidentally managed the campaign Narendra Modi for PM in 2014. The latest article was published on the Time website on Tuesday, and the article states, and I quote, "A key factor is that Modi has managed to transcend India's greatest fault line, the class divide," unquote. The writer Ladwa has also credited Prime Minister Modi's emergence as a unifier to his origins in a backward caste, a factor missed or deliberately omitted by the Western media, obsessed with what they call upper caste domination. The magazine says, and I quote, "Narendra Modi was born into one of India's most disadvantaged social groups," unquote. He explained further, in reaching the very top, he personifies the aspirational working classes and can self-identify with his poorest citizens in a way that Nehru-Gandhi political dynasty, who have led India for most of 72 years since independence, simply cannot. Yet, despite the strong and often unfair criticism leveled at Modi's policies, both throughout his first term and this marathon election season, no Prime Minister has united the Indian electorate as much in close to 5 decades. The author also said, while referring to Indira Gandhi's massive 1971 victory, this story, incidentally, stands in sharp contrast to one of the earlier stories that was published on 10th of May. The story then was published by journalist Atish Tasir, who slammed the Modi government for the several lynching cases, Yogi Adityanath's appointment as Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister, amongst a host of other issues. The previous story turned into a major political election issue as the opposition sided with the author for calling Prime Minister Modi a divider. However, in this latest story, the writer talks about Modi by saying that through socially progressive policies, he has brought many Indians, both Hindus and religious minorities, out of poverty at a faster rate than in any previous generation. Well, what has brought about this change of heart as far as the Time magazine is concerned? That's the big focus on Talking India Ahead. Let me open this up. We have with us a power-packed panel joining us on the broadcast at this point in time. I have with me Tina Sharma, representing the BJP, Sumit Sarkar, for the opposition's point of view, that is the Trinamool Congress, Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary, political analyst, Sumit Peer, political commentator. I am also joined in by L. Ravichandar, political analyst from our Hyderabad studios. I have with me Vivekanand Nartam for his astute political analysis on the debate as well. We had also sent in a request to the Congress party to participate in the debate, but the Congress decided to stay away from this discussion for reasons which possibly are best known to them at this point in time. Let me get started with you, Tina. When the Time magazine carried out that cover story describing Prime Minister Modi as a divider-in-chief, I remember we had a very, very animated discussion in these very studios, yes, where you said that it kind of projected a lopsided view that the Western media had when it comes to India and Indian policies. Today, when you look at this article, which still is there on the Time magazine website, how would you react? It is the same magazine, but there is clearly a 360-degree change of stance when it comes to Prime Minister Modi.
Saurabh, it's a very surprise kind of thing which has come to us, and we're very happy for it. But then it's a matter of concern, because the moment we see the writer changes, narrative changes, that's one story. Government changes, narrative changes, that's another story. I think these are the things which makes me a little serious about my country, and the kind of perception which is carried out by Western media. Of course, I mean that's a matter of concern. But having said that, I would say that Mr. Modi has set that narrative much earlier than this 2019 elections, Lok Sabha elections, but no one was accepting. I think he has made people accept, or he has made people bound to accept him as a leader of new generation India. And I will not comment anything on Congress, because we've already commented, we've already discussed or criticized Congress for 65, their good 65 years, which could have changed their fate to new India. Now I can only say that as a Indian citizen, I feel proud of him. I feel proud of my Narendra Modi, my Prime Minister. That's what I can say here. But yes, it's a matter of concern.
Yes, a lot of Indians have given a thumbs up to the Prime Minister, and that is reflecting itself in the massive mandate that the BJP has had as far as this election is concerned. Sumit, if I could bring you in. Yeah. Now, between 10th of May and now, when we are standing at the cusp of this mega swearing in tomorrow. Right. And as you can see at the bottom of our screens, we are putting out all international leaders who have actually started arriving or are expected in Delhi to be a part of this historic swearing-in ceremony. Now, with global focus on this one man, Narendra Modi, what could have possibly brought about this change of heart as far as the Time magazine is concerned?
You see, Saurabhji, when you look at it, there are a couple of 2 or 3 things. First of all, let's not befool ourselves. There is a section of Western media which has a coveted interest not to let India go up. Let's not take names, we all know the names. There are NGOs, there are organizations, and with due respects, there are writers and there's a lobby which is working against that. So at the time of the election, when there was an article which was engineered, the word is which was engineered and architected in a way to hurt BJP and to hurt NDA, it came at that point of time. Now, what has changed, the important thing is, you see 1.3 billion Indians have voted, right? There is a decisive mandate. And the most important thing is, in 50% of the minority, minority controlled districts, BJP has again won. We know in UP we have crossed all the caste lines, we have disseminated the politics. Now with these figures coming, mathematics coming in right up blatant on your face, now you should be an idiot to look around. So somebody had to come and say,
but I have one fundamental question. I will take that question to Professor
somebody had to come and say, look, we did a mistake.
Okay, now you used a word, you used a word, and you used a word. That is exactly what the BJP.
That,
okay, no, Sumit, just give me 1 second. You used a word. You said that an article was engineered in the middle of the election season to try and deflect the narrative in a way.
Correct.
Now it is the same magazine which is coming out with this story. Because so you don't see Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary. The BJP at that point in time had said that yes, the story that was put out as a cover story by Time magazine was with an ulterior motive. There was a definite political slant to that, and the timing is what they question. Today you see that the BJP or people who are reading between the lines, they see that the article was engineered at that point in time. If that article was engineered at that point in time, is this article also then engineered?
Very fundamental point I am bringing. This is business as usual for Time. It has nothing to do with BJP or Congress, nothing to do with pro or anti-India. I'll prove it. The earlier article that you mentioned, which was calling our Prime Minister as the divider in chief, was written by Atish Tasir.
Yes.
And there was a huge talk that he is the Pakistan-born journalist, and therefore basically reflecting the Pakistani thought. Basically, he is the son of an Indian journalist, Tavleen Singh, and Salman Tasir,
yes,
the Pakistani politician and businessman who is known to be secular and killed by the militants, by the way. Tasir is, the writer Atish Tasir is a British citizen. He was basically a part of the quote-unquote secular Western lobby, and doing his perspective, putting it under idea section of Time. In the same issue, there was another article by the economy editor,
yes,
which actually appreciated Modi economics. So, what Time did before elections, had a top-of-the-line article on socio-political aspects of India, which is critical to Modi, and an economic article which is favorable to Modi. Today, what Time has again done, has now a socio-political article which is favorable to Modi, and an economic article by Miss Alisa Iris, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State of Obama administration, which is critical to Modi economics again. So basically what Time is doing is just a balancing game. At that point of time, for the Western media, what could click well is a critical article on Modi. from the Western peoples, Western
So
audience.
you are saying that this is essentially a market-driven approach. It's a market which is dominating.
I'll just conclude. Today, it is favorable for Time to be looked at as a pro-India and pro-government of India sort of a situation. And also note, this article is written by Manoj Ladwa, who is the CEO of India Inc. Group from London, who is a part of the leadership team of Modi's campaign committee in 2014. So it was Tasir, who is a known critic of Modi earlier, and this is Manoj, who is a known supporter of Modi today.
So which means that the engineering,
there is one thing,
business as usual. Sumit Sarkar, please come in on this. How does the Trinamool Congress see this? Because the Congress at that point in time was extremely happy. They said, look, this is what we have been saying all along, that here is one man who has turned a blind eye when it comes to lynchings. Lynchings go on unabated in all BJP-ruled states. Cow vigilantes rule the roost. Here is one man who's divided and polarized the country into such deep fault lines that these will take years to heal. Now this is being borne out by the Time magazine. Today, how will the opposition read between the lines when it comes to the Time magazine's article, which says that he is one man who's united India like no other Prime Minister has done in the past?
I don't think just because you lose an election, the ideology is lost. What the parliaments can do, the streets can certainly undo it. There are still incidents of cow vigilantes. There are still incidents of Gaurakshaks making random things at Raipur. An Adivasi protester was arrested yesterday for calling for eating beef. There was lynching in Sioni. There was lynching in Begusarai. There was lynching in Gurugram. And all this has happened in the last 5-6 days. So nothing has changed. Modi's ideology is the ideology of hatred and bigotry. A person who goes on to the election campaign and says minority is majority here, majority is minority here. All these, a person with such values is a value full of hatred and bigotry. So maybe hatred has won this time, but that does not mean that he has united India. So nothing has changed on ground. So why will we believe that Modi is trying to unite India?
So are you then disagreeing with what the Time magazine has published? No, are you then saying that Time magazine's assessment is wrong? Is that what you're trying to say? Just a moment. Just a moment. Is that what you're trying to say?
The Time magazine can assess the way it wants. The Indian voters have assessed the way it wants. The opposition parties will assess Modi by the way it feels. So there will be a lot of assessment about Modi's. There will be opposition voices. I'm sure Modi and his followers don't like opposition voices. That's okay for them. But we will be.
No, but sir, I clearly see here a case of shifting goalposts. A case of shifting goalposts. And Vivekanand ji, please come in on this now. You know, when the first article was published, and as Professor Chaudhary also pointed out, there were two articles. One which was in a way which hailed Modi as a great economic reformer, and it talked about Modi's economic policies. It talked about demonetization, and the other which talked about the basic fundamental social issues at hand, and something that the opposition had been talking of in one rally after the other. Today the opposition says that the Time magazine is free to judge Modi the way they want. Now is it then a case of sour grapes, so to say?
Of course.
Ground glass.
This is a selective approach. When they come up, when magazine comes up with that poster on its cover page saying Modi is India's divider-in-chief, the opposition and the left liberal intellectuals, starved of issues, starved of narratives, they hail it as their own standpoint. But when the same magazine comes and hails Modi as a reformer, as somebody who has not divided India but unified India, now they say that,
and also managed to transcend what they say that India's greatest fault line, that is a class divide. So they're very, very pointed in the argument that they're making. Vivekanand ji.
He has breached at the class divide. He definitely has breached the class divide for the reason that he himself comes from a very humble background and reaches to the Prime Minister's position by dint of his own achievements. He has invoked the aspirations of common men in India, and they have started to identify themselves with the Prime Minister, and this positive, the positivity has invoked. Before that, I would also like to mention, is this the article which appeared in Time magazine, is that the only article? We have seen the articles coming in The Guardian,
right,
the Washington Post, the New York Times, and who were the ones who were writing? The Indian people, or who had some kind of connect Even for that matter, this Atish Tasir, he was in India for a long time. So these people went on this is a selective approach, so-called left liberal intellectuals who with this
selective
armchair intellectualism and
a selective approach. Mr. Ravichandar, please come in. What's your take on this, sir? The point is that, when we are talking of two writers, one who's been a part of Prime Minister Modi's campaign machinery, so to say, when it comes to 2014, has been actively involved in popularizing brand Modi. On the other hand is a man who is a known critic, who was decried after that article came out as being a Pakistani, and said in no uncertain terms that what else can you expect from a Pakistani? Is it right to form our own opinions only based on who's writing the piece rather than going into the merits or demerits of what the arguments are?
Sorry, in the last few years, particularly in the last few months, we all love stamping labels on people. I'm not surprised about it. But if you went through what Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary said, and he made it a point to show that both issues of the Time magazine carried a pro article and an anti article on Narendra Modi. Now, there are people even in this fora who are moving from the debate on the volte-face of the Time magazine to singing songs of praise of Narendra Modi, which is not what the purpose of today's discussion is. Now, whether Narendra Modi is a great leader or Narendra Modi is not a great leader, whether he is a divider or whether he is India's chief person who brings in a cohesion of all the parties together, is not the debate we are having today. The debate is what brings about this volte-face, this U-turn that the Time magazine is bringing about. And I think Professor Chaudhary put it beautifully when he said it is simple business for the Time magazine. One, I think needlessly, and needlessly I repeat, are we giving this Time magazine a huge halo, which I don't think it really deserves in the first place. Journalistic demands of a newspaper,
the Time magazine doesn't deserve that halo.
Yes, I don't think
but it is the same Time magazine which on which the opposition spent sleepless nights after that article came out. After that article came out, Tina Sharma, please come in. Tina Sharma, please come in.
Sir, let me finish.
How can we be so selective?
All that I'm saying is this.
No, you made a very, very pertinent point, and you put your point across. Mr. Ravichandar, the fact is that, you also endorse the view that it's business as usual, and, one shouldn't be debating and discussing that because it doesn't deserve the attention.
And also
it is the opposition which in fact went to town, highlighting the Time magazine in that election season. Tina Sharma.
So it's something, it's something like Time magazine and cashing on their reputation and, market value for that matter. But yes, it's I sort of earlier, commented that it's a very disgraceful, and it is if it's that way going, and it is also very a serious concern for all of us. How do we stand these media houses? How do we stand their credibility? So that's one question which comes to my mind.
Right.
But yes, I also quoted that writer changes, narrative changes. That's also one thing which is happening in India, and with the support of Indian media for that matter, if we are criticizing Western media here sitting here in the studio. But yes, it's a matter of concern, and if a magazine like Time is changing stance on the same issue.
Yes. So what is essentially guiding the Time magazine?
And whether we should follow Time magazine or not.
Correct. Because this is the same magazine which had also come up with cover stories in the past, multiple cover stories on Prime Minister Modi in the past and other Indian Prime Ministers in the past as well. And as far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned, I remember distinctly that cover story which said that Modi means business.
Yes.
We'll come back to the debate in just a bit. I'll have to step into a very, very tiny breather. I can see many hands going up there. I promise to give everyone a chance to have their say. Stay with us. We are back in just a bit.